Good vach to all. We're on Kuf Yudalid Amid Aleph, a little bit ahead. We're by the Mishnah on Kuf Yudalid Amid Aleph. And we continue the sugya of Yiyush and Shina Rishus, a throwback. Not Luke Machsin es Chamor. Now, Machsin are the custom collectors, and they take his Chamor, and they had a little, says the Miri, they had a little Rachmanis on him. So they took his Cadillac and they gave him a Chevy. Right? They went ahead. They took his Cadillac and they gave him a Chevy, right? Notlu or Notlu listim, robbers, as ksusai, they took his ksus, his clothing. V'naslu ksus acheres, they gave him other ksus. Harielu shaloi, it's his. Whatever they gave to him is his, even though it's chazaka that what is stolen. Nonetheless, what we'll go ahead and say they can keep if they shabaylam misyashim mehem. Says Rashi, Harielu shaloi. The mistoma probably the Yashu Abaylim miyad immediately the kananu heyech biyush v'shina rishus, and now this person he acquires it with yush and shina rishus. In other words, the shina rishus going from the listim or the maiches to the him, that would be the shina rishus, and the yush obviously was in the hands of what of the maiches or the robber. Hamatzal min hanor or min agayis, someone who saves something from a river that's overflowing or an invading army. I min alistim. Im nisyaishu abaylam hariyel shaloi. Now, l'chayri, this is a stira to what we just said. You just told me before that that listim is yish bailam. They're be miyayish, and now you're saying, well, if you know they're miyayish, then you can keep it, right? So the Gemara is going to ask that as a stira. We're going to answer, one is speaking about the listim Yisrael, one is speaking about the listim of a guy. That'll go ahead and answer up the conflict in the Reisha, where it says listim is yush, and the Seifa where yush is not, where the listim is not yush. V'chein nechil shel devoirim, you have a swarm of bees, that believe is rishus, and the shaishu, if they go ahead one and he's miyayish, hari elish shaloi. However, Rabbi Yochanan Breika, ne'menesisha cotton loymar, a woman or a child is believed to say, this swarm of bees left Rishus A, and it went to B, and now he's going into A, is going into B, to get back his swarm. And if he does damage to field B, he has to go ahead and pay for the damage. He's not able to go ahead, and let's say the bees are on a branch, he's not able to go ahead and cut down that branch in Rishus B to bring back to his Rishus, even though he has in mind to give him the price of the branch. However, Rabbi Shmuel ben Eishel Rabbi Yochanan Breika, you can cut it down and give the domim. You might remember this is one of the takanas of Yeshua bin Nun. You might, if it sounds familiar, it's one of the takanas that we mentioned in Perek Meruba. Okay, so the first part of the Mishnah. That's the first part of the Mishnah. We're going to Mishnah to the Mishnah. First part of the Mishnah. Yiyush and Shina Rishus is kaina. Yiyush, whether it is Yiyush or not by listim, that seems to be a machlokes in the Mishnah. Tana says the Brisa. In Natal, if in Natal, again, this is the case. You take it. This it's the same case, right? In Natal, if you take the chamor from the meiches or from the robber, you return it to the original owner, which would be in conflict with the first case of the Mishnah, which says you can keep it. Because Savar, the Brisa that just mentioned that you return it, holds Yish Kadi. Yish is Kadi without Shinoi is like Kana. You're not Kana. Now, L'chayra, there is Shinoi over here. You're going from the Rishus of the listim to his Rishus, right? You're going, he is giving it to you like he's taking one and he's returning another to you. So it's not yish alone. So the Rashba says a beautiful pshat over here. We'll see it in a second. And since it came to what the hands came initially iser, therefore he has to return it to the Baal. The others say no. Right? If he wants to go ahead, Mashmi doesn't have to. If he wants to return it, he returns it. My timer. What's the reason that he doesn't have to return it? What's the reason if he wants to return it, but he doesn't have to return it? Is why my timer is yish k'di yish would be kaina, right? Miu I don't want what to keep this. If it's the chassid, you can go ahead and return it. So over here, it's not yish kedi. Any which way you look at it, it's not yish alone. There is a shina b'shus over here. Now the question is, the Rashba learns pshat. Here's the machlokes between the first brisa that says what it's not kaina, and the second one, Dekad the Amir, that says it is kaina. Is this considered a shina b'shus or not? Is a yish with this shina b'shus? Everyone's maida yish alone without anything is not kaina. Everyone's maida that. That's the way the Rashba learns. The shaila is, because that was a sugya arucha in Masechta Meruba, in Perek Meruba. Here the shaila is this shinoi considered a shinoi or not? That he's giving it to you and taking back something else. Is that considered a shinoi or not? That's what the Gemara is under discussion over here. It's not like when you buy something, he's giving you something, he's taking away from you, and he's feeling a little bit, he's giving you something. Is that considered real shinoi or not? Like the first lashon, the first price, it's not. Like the second one, it is. But it would answer up the lashon of yish kedi kaina when we said it's not kaina, right? So once we shell through this little aspect of the fact of whether it's a shid or shusanan makes a lot of sense. Okay, we said Ariel Shalom Misyaishim. Okay, so we have in the Mishnah we have conflicting dinim. The Gemara doesn't ask it as a stira, guys. But let's go back to the Mishnah. Listim as ksusai. So clearly the first price is holding that this is Yush, right? It's Yush. And the second part of the Mishnah, I said the price of the Mishnah, second part of the Mishnah, Hamatzil min anor min agayas I mean listim. Let's focus on the word listim. In Nisyai if the Baal is Mishayas are Shaloi. You just told me that listim the Baal is Miyayish. Now you're telling me in the same breath, right? It's not. So the Gemara doesn't ask as a kasha, but the teretz of the Gemara will be a good teretz. I'm Ravashi. When we said that what you don't, it's Yush. Then he's miyayish. I've a listim Yisrael loy, but if it's listim Yisrael, he's not miyayish. Sava lemacha, you know what? It's a Jewish thief. Lemacha tomorrow nakit delay bedina. I'll go ahead and take him to din. I'll take him to court. So this concept now, this can answer up the Mishnah, the first part of the Mishnah. Again, you see, they're not asking as a stira. We're taking this chiluk and applying it to the Mishnah. The Reisha that said it is Yush is speaking about what? A listing that is an akum. The Seifa, the second clause of the Mishnah that says im nisyashu abailim is speaking if it's what? A Yisrael. Maskala of Yosef. Adarabba. I have a svara to say he's miyayish by a Jew and he's not miyayish by a guy. Mistabra akam didainoi begise le miyayish. He's going to take this guy to a Goyish court. The Goyish court, they don't know any chachmas. They're not too big on subtleties. They're going to go ahead and smack the guy until he pays back. So he's not miyayish. Why? Because he knows they'll apply brute force. Yisrael, Kivin the Amri, Meima miyayish. What are they going to say in the Jewish court? Go pay him. Say Tainloi, go pay him. What's the guy going to do? He's going to walk. So he's right. So it says Rabbi Yosef, it's the opposite svara. But the miyayish in Jewish court, you're going to be miyayish more than a goyish court. Eliyitmar, if you want to hear the chilik between a goy and a Jew, a seifa itmar on the seifa of the Mishnah. Hamatzil min ha'akim and listim im nisyayishu abailim if im nisyayishu abailim in and stamaloi if you miyayish yes stama not. Now loy shanu ela akom mishum dedaina begisei. Avalistim Yisrael, Kivin the army Meimar, since they just talk miyayish, he's going to be miyayish. Okay, Tanan. We have a mission now. Just we know a little bit about. We've had quite a few times the concept of a kli cannot go ahead and be yoyrid l'dei tuma until there's gemar malacha. Now gemar malacha would depend upon the person that is making it, right? So if it's an umin, it's subject to the das of the balabas. What he wants. If I hired you out to go ahead and make a shoe, when you go ahead and have it in the form of a hide, even though that hide could be used as a tablecloth or a saddle blanket, it's not a gemar malacha because I hired you for something beyond that. Whereas the balabas, who's just making something, once it's roy for something, then it'll be roy for tuma. How this comes into a baba kama, let's see. Tanan. Hasam. You have the skins of a balabayas. Machshava mitamason. His machshava that of Gemar Malacha makes it royal for tuma. B'shel avdon, however, a tanner ein machshava mitamason. Now here's what we need. Shel gazlin ein machshava mitamason. Why? Because obviously it's not koina, it's not him. Shel ganif machshava mitamason. But the ganif, his machshava would go ahead and be mitama. So, guys, in other words, according to the Chachamim, that a gazlin would not be, right, the machshava would not be mitama, meaning he's not the balabas, the gazlin. Why? Because the owner was not miyayish. Again, the balabas has the capacity to make it roy for tumah. If you're telling me his machshava does not do it, obviously he's not the balabas. So beautifully, when the Chachamim say gazlin no, when they say gazlin no, you know what it means? It means yish no. Since it's not a good, since the yish isn't a good, he's not miyayish, so you're not the balabas. Ganif, on the other hand, says the Chachamim, Ganif, on the other hand, he is miyayish because he doesn't know who it is. So Gazlan, that he knows who it is, he's not miyayish because Gazlan took it in front of him. The Ganif, who he doesn't know he is, he's miyayish. And therefore, the Ganif's machshava would be Yorle Tuma because he's the balabas since there was yish. That's the Chachamim. Reb Shimon says the opposite. Reb Shimon, I'm a chil of advarim, switch it around. Shel Gazlan machshava matamason. This guy obviously he's a strong man. He took it away from him. He's not going. And Shel Ganif, he'll go after him. He'll find him. Ein machshav mitamason. So Shimon says the opposite. A Gazlan you are miyayish, and the Ganif you're not miyayish. Okay. So for all intents and purposes, what we have to know is Reb Shimon says the Chum say Gazlan no yish. Reb Shimon says Ganif no yish. Good. Amaula machloikis bistam. If you don't know if you're miyayish or not, aval b'yedua. If you know he was miyayish. Now, guys, here's the question: if you know he was miyayish, did he really mean it or not? If he said he's miyayish, did he really mean it or not? Aval b'yedua divrei kol yish kana. According to Ula, everyone would say that what yish would be kana. Rabbi says no. B'yedua menami machloikis. You'd have the same machloikis. You'd have the same machloikis. Okay, so now we have, guys. Let's go through it. You know what? Okay, so here's our Gemara. Here's our Gemara. The Rabbanan says, forget the Rabbanan say Gazlan no Yush. Reb Shimon says Gazlan yes Yush. The Rabbanan say Ganif yes Yush. Reb Shimon says no Yush. Yedua, if you know he was miyayish. Says Ula, then everyone agrees. There's no machlokes. Says Rabba, the same machlokes applies. Says Rabba, the same machlokes applies. Okay, I'm going to keep this on the screen. Let's see the Gemara now. So we have this machlokes out here. Says the Gemara Vaita. Amle Abaya. Le Rabba, according to Rabba, loitif legaleha the Ula. Rabba, you shouldn't argue on Ula. Rabba, that you say the machlokes is still intact. Do not argue on Ula. Says there's no machlokes if you heard him be miyayish. Did not be masnisan. Kavase, we learned in the Mishnah like him, Lefi, Shaloi Nisyayishu Abailim. Because why? Because the Baal was not Miyayish. Haima Deloi Nisyayishu Abailim. The reason is why? Because the Baal wasn't Miyayish. Av Nisyayishu Abailim, Hari Eila Shaloi. So guys, be a dua, if you hear that is Miyayish, right, then you know that what? That it's a good yish. What does our Mishnah say, guys? Our Mishnah, if you look back at our Mishnah, the first case, so right, it says that what? Is that the case that is going on? Yeah, because I guess so. No, that's not that case. That's is miyayish there. Where's it going on? Oh, it's going on. It's going on the Mishnah in the skins, guys. Reb Shimon guys. Look at Reb Shimon Mechilav Advarim. Shall Gazlan Machshav Matamasan, shall Ganef A Machshav Matamasan, Lefi Shalenis Yashua Bailam. Guys, by the skins. I'm sorry. I gave you the wrong Mishnah. I'm sorry. It's not, it's this Mishnah. The Mishnah by the skins. Reb Shimon says the opposite. In this case, yes, Yish, this case, no Yish. And if they Shanish Yashua Bailam. The reason is because the Baal was Miyayish. Why do you know if you know, because he says the reason over here is because the Baal wasn't Miyayish. But if you know he was Miyayish, then everyone would agree that it's a Yush. So Rabbah do not disagree with Ula. So Abaya tells his Rebbe, Rabbah, don't disagree with Ula. The Mishnah by skins seems to be going in conjunction with Ula. So it says, how does the answer add it up? We learned because there is, right, the fisha ein yish lebailim. The yish is no good. The reason don't learn because they're not miyayish is because the yish is no good. The lashon that we learned when the Mishnah said, fellas, the lashon ein the fisha leinish yashu abailim. It's because the yish isn't a yish, fellas. Even though you heard him be miyayish, it doesn't work. Look at the lashon, guys. The reason why it doesn't work, lefisha ein yish lebailim. Even when they're miyayish, it's not yish, because they really don't mean it. They really don't mean what they're saying. Look at Rashi, guys. Biyadua nami machlokes. Guys, biyadua meaning when you heard that he was miyayish, it's also machlokes. The inami the shamina the miyayish, even though you heard the miyayish, Amri Rabbanan, the Rabbanan say big gazlin, lo have a yish. But it's not by the gazlin, it's not yish. Why? The chol shaita daite leminkek bedina, the chem beganach Reb Shimon. So guys, say look at the chart. When it says over here later Rabbanan no yish, you know why? Because any yish that happens, even if you heard him be miyayish, it's not yish. He didn't mean it. When you see by Shimon by Ganef, no yish, that even though you heard him be miyayish, he didn't mean it. So Ula was gairis because he wasn't miyayish. Mashma, if he was miyayish, everyone yes would agree. Rabbi says no, it's still machlokes, because even if you hear that he's miyayish, he really didn't mean it. Even if you hear he's miyayish, he really didn't mean it. Says the Gavaita. Tanan, Mishnah. Not lu moichsin chamoiroi. They took the chamar, money. And what does it say? The first case is Mefesha Bailam Misyashim. Now, guys, a moiches is a gazlin, and a listim is a ganef. Look at our Mishnah. Not lu moichsim, if a gazlin takes his chamar, or not lu listim, or a ganef took his ksus, what's the din? So what do you see? That it's a kasha on both. You see Sai by Gazlin and Sai by Ganef, they're miyayish, guys. So who's the Mishnah? It's not the Rabbanon and it's not Reb Shimon. Guys, if you look at a chart, it should be all yeses over here, right? It should be yes, 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 yes. It says it openly. A Gazlin's a Meichis, a Listim is a Ganef, and our Mishnah says what? It's Yush. So how do you have no and no? Correct? How do you have no and no? That's the kasha on the Rabbanon and Reb Shimon. Says the Gemara. It's not a kasha. They can argue in the Mishnah, but says the Gemara. Let's see the Gemara Ferais. Money. Who's the town of the Mishnah? Rabbanon kasha Gazlin. They say the Gazlin's no. We say Gazlin yes. Reb Shimon kasha Ganef. He says Ganef no. We say Ganef yes. So Bishleim le'ula dama biyadua kana hakanami biyadua. Guys, look at the chart. Geschmack, right? You know what our Mishnah is speaking about? Where you know he was miyayish. So what does Yedua? Yes, Yush, yes, Yush. So like Ula, we can learn Pshat in the Mishnah, correct? Yes and yes. Our Mishnah says, Sai Ganef, Sai Gazlan, if Yedua is Yush. So Ula can be said that our Mishnah is speaking be Yedua, and it works out well. But like Rabbah, that says Machloikis is even be Yedua, who's the Tan of our Mishnah? Aval Elul Rabbah, back in the Gemara, but according to Rabbah, Dama be Yedua, Nami Machlaikis, Hamani, Loy Rabbanon, Veloy Reb Shimon. Good. And for the Gemara, like Rabbi Balistim Mizuyin, it's speaking about what? Amish is speaking about Listim Mizuyin, and Listim Mizuyin is what? Is according to Listim Mizuyin and Reb Shimon, he is Reb Shimon. Guys, look at our thing over here. What does Reb Shimon hold, guys? Look at the chart. Reb Shimon says, yes, Yush. When our Mishnah said that it's speaking about listim, it did not mean listim that are ganif. It said listim mizuyim that are gazlonim. So if you cut off this part of the chart over here, right? If you go ahead, I don't know if I can do that. I don't think I can do that. If you cut off this part of the chart over here and just focus over here, Rav Shimon is the Tan of the Mishnah because he holds Sai Gazlin, a Moichis is a Gazlin, and the listim of our Mishnah is listim Mizuyin that's also a Gazlin, right? And therefore, he's the Tan of our Mishnah, it's kind of. The only problem is now you have two cases wide of Gazlin, correct? What's the kasha? Ganef says no, our Mishnah says yes. And for the Gemara, our Mishnah is not speaking about a Ganef. Our speaking about a Gazlin. It says the Gemara, you already said Gazlin. Moichis is a Gazlin. Says the Gemara, there's two types of Gazlanim. Ihachi says the Gemara, Hainu Gazlin. Says the Gemara, Trey Gavni Gazlin. There are two types of Gazlanim. Toshma, Haganef v'Hagazlin v'Ha'anos, is that's a person who gives the money and takes it anyway. Hegdesh and Hegdish, because obviously the Baal was Miyayish. Trumas and Truma, the Baal was Miyayish. Umaisosei and Maisa. So obviously, guys, Ganef v'Gazlin, you got a problem. Because we see that this year started by Ganef v'Gazlin. Good? That's going to be a problem. Gazlin's going to be a problem like Gazlin like the Rabbanon, and Ganef is going to be a problem like Rav Shimon. Says the Gemara, money, who's the Tana? I Rabbanon Kasha Gazlin, I Rav Shimon Kasha Ganef. Bishlem Alula Dama B'Yidua Kona Hachanami B'Yidua. It's good speaking B'Yidua V'Divei Akol. El Rabba Dama B'Yidua Nami Machlokes. Same teretz. Money Lo Rabbanon Rav Shimon Hachamai Skina B'Listim Mizuyin. Rav Shimon he. Yehachi Hainu Gazlin. Trey Gavni Gazlin. Guys, this is very good. Yeah, very good. Now, I have a third shita. Rabbi guys says this. Rabbi says yes, yes. So Rabbi's the Tana of the Mishnah. Everybody say Mahamas Nisan is Rabbi he. The Tanya Rabbi Oimer Ganef Kigazlin. A Ganef is like a Gazlin on the days. The Kaimalon Kigazlin Rav Shimon, like a Gazlin Rav Shimon. That what is kaina. Like a Gazlin Rav Shimon. That's kaina. So therefore, where you do put Rabbi over here, and yes, everything would work out. The Brisa would be Rabbi. The Mishnah could be Rabbi, and therefore everything would work out. Guys, you good? Okay, great. Let's Kufa, Rabbi Omer Ani, Ganav Kigasan. Now we got the answer to this already. How is Ganav Kigasan? Is the Gasan like the Chacham and you're not Miyayish, or is it a Gasan like Rabbi Shimon and you are Miyayish? And we answered, it's a Gasan like Ganef is the Gasan like Rabbi Shimon, and therefore you're Miyayish by both. Okay, Kufa, Rabbi Omer Ani, Ganav Kigasan, Iboilahu. Kigasan the Rabbanon Kamar, and therefore it's not Kaina, not Miyayish, but like Kana. I don't look at Gazlan the Rav Shimon Kamar V'Kana. Tashma, not Lu Ma'achsin Chamoiroi. Now, money, who's the Tana of Mishnah? Irabban and Kasha Gazlan, Rav Shimon Kasha Ganef. Again, you don't even need the chart. You know this already. Iyam Bishlem Rebbe Kigazlan, Rav Shimon. Bishlem you can hold Rebbe holds like Gazlan, Rav Shimon Kamar V'Kni Kana Hamani Rebbe. Who's the Tana of Mishnah's Rebbe? Yes, Sai Ganef, Sai Gazlan, Kana. Mishum Hachi Kana. Eli Iyam Kigazlan the Rabbanon Kamar. Well, Kana meaning not Ganef and Gana Gazlan Hamani. Who's the Tana of Mishnah? Loy Rebbe who says no. Loy Reb Shimon who says no Ganef, yes Gazlin. Loy Rabbanon who says no Gazlin, yes Ganef. Hachamaiskin b'listim Mizuyin Reb Shimon here. Again, same teretz. Listim Mizuyin Reb Shimon is speaking about two Gazlanim. Yehachi Hainu Gazlin says what Trey Gavni Gazlin. Tashma. Let's try and be pasha the shaila when Rebbe says that Ganef and Ganef are equal. Is it equal that they're both not kaina, or equal that they both are kaina, both miyayish or not miyayish? Haganaf Gazlan ba'anis, Hegdesh and Hegdish, Trumas and Truma, Meiser and Meiser. Obviously, there you see that if their action is kain, must be there the owner. So it must be there's yish money. Irabon and Kasha Gazlan, Irab Shimon Kasha Ganef. Iyamid Bishlema Rebbe Ganef Kigazlan Reb Shimon Kamar Mishum Hachi Kani. Eliyamid Ganef Kigazlan Rabbanon Hamani. And for God bless the Muslim Reb Shimon he. Yehachi Hanu Gazlan Trey Gami Gazlan. Okay, Amalei Ravashi Larava Toshma. Okay, this is going to work. The Maslis and Rebbe, the Masli Rebbe Reb Shimon Berei. We had this already twice. That Rebbe was teaching Reb Shimon Berei. Guys, remember in the Chosam Shein Machrayis? What does Achrayis mean? Does it mean karka, or does it mean something that's you do like a shofar that is like karka? That's right. So this is what Rebbe was teaching him. Lo yidava sheish b'achrayis mamish doesn't mean that what karka. Elafilu para v'chayrish. You steal a para, and everyone knows it's a para, and you're working it. Chamor u'machmarav, you're working with the chamor. Chayavim lahachsim if they cover aviyim. Hayim if they cover aviyim. The whole reason they have to return it is because cover of their fathers. Because everyone's going to know it was a stolen object. Halav covered aviyim. It's not going to be covered to their father. Lo, you don't have to return it. Why don't you have to return it? Because you were kind of with Yish. Shmamina, Rebbe Gazlan, the Reb Shimon Kama, Shmamina, Rebbe who taught this to Reb Shimon. Guys, Rebbe is the one talking, and he told Reb Shimon, return it because it's for the cover of your father. Mashma without the cover, you wouldn't have to return it. Why not? You know why? Because you were kind of a Yish. So therefore, obviously, when he equated Gana for Gazlan, it must be like Reb Shimon that Yish is kind of rather than like to the Chachamim that it's not. And you place the Shaila. So Yetzim Dvareinu, again, this is an important machlokes. You have over here, Ganef Stanav Gazlan says no Yish because you know who it is. Reb Shimon says yes, she is. He's strong arm you. Ganef, you don't know who it is. You're miyayish. Reb Shimon says you go after him. Rebbe says Ganef ki Gazlan. They're both equal. Yes. They're both this. You can put the word Rebbe over here. It'll be yes. That's the maskana of the Gemara. We're all good. Wait to Shabbos, don't geschmack. Show a pizza party. No one eats anymore. Harold's it's not gonna eat. Sliver. Okay. Anyway. We said, now fellas, can you be kind of devoirim? Think about it. There's only kinyan derabanan. You can't acquire them. They're constantly on the move, right? They're in your rishus. They're moving. So they're really hefker. But the rabbanan made us take an oil and made what? If it's in your rishus, they're yours. And go into someone else's rishus. How can you go to someone else's rishus? Okay, anyway. Says the Gemara. My v'chein. It says v'chein nechil shel devorim. It says v'chein. What does it mean v'chein? Okay, what does Rashi say? My v'chein pshita dekona b'yish. The maishna nechil miksus. What's the different a swarm than a ksus than a garment? Well, we know the difference. Says the Gemara, Hachi Kamar. I feel nechil shel devarim. Back in the Gemara, the kinyan derabanan, who it's a kinyan derabanan. Says Rashi, they ain't kind gezel. It's not really gezel if you take it. Elam say darka shalom. They're hefkin, they're hefker. Betanya yoni shavich v'yoni aliyah. Ein behem mishum gezel. Mishum darka shalom. They have to fly the coop to give it back. Okay, so it's only kinyan derabanan because really it's hefker. So I would have thought the following: Hi kivin derabanan ba'almahu the kanilei. I feel slama nami miyayish. I feel a mistama that is miyayish. It's only it's hefker. It's comes, it goes. Everything is miyayish, and therefore you can keep it. Kamashman dafka in the Yeshua Bailim in v'chein. You wanted the v'chein just like a ksus. You needed to hear that it was miyayish. So too over here you had to hear yish. So now we're going to get into a sugya. You're saying that the ish v'cotton are believed to say that this beehive came from branch A to B, right? And when do you believe Adis Isha? When do you believe a cotton for Adis? Says the Gemara, here's the case. Isha cotton b'nei Adis ninu, or Isha cotton b'nei Adis? Some Rav Yehuda Mashmuel Hachi Ma'askin. You know what we're dealing with over here? You're in Shahoyu Bailim Mirat from Acharayim. The guy in A is running into B. The guy in A is mamish running into B. The Isha v'cotton masich lefitumam, and you hear either the women are talking. They're not testifying. They're being masich lefitumam. You're hearing it on the side. They happen to be talking. Voimer mikan yotz nechil zeh. From here, the nechil went out, right? And so really they're not believe as edis. They believe as masich lefitumam because you know you're not relying upon them. In other words, you heard a conversation. What's the whole svara of the smich levitumai? Since you know they're not being relied upon because they don't even know you're listening, they must be telling the truth. Okay, so therefore, enochinami, I'll snem on us of this. It doesn't work. It's speaking mesich levitumai. They said that the nechil came from point A to point B. Ravashi, ein mesich levitumai kasha ella le'edus isha. When it comes to Mishumi Gunu Mekel, if you hear Mesich Vituma that this person was killed, or this person went to the gas chamber, right? Then Mesich Vituma would be believed. That's Edis Isha. But Stamas Life Adine Mom, and this you won't be believed. Amalei Ravina Bilvad, latest is Bilvad. Amalei Ravina Ravashi Veloy. What are you talking about? Right? Nechil Shel Devarim Mesich V'Tumahu says Shani Nechil Shel Devarim Dekani Derab Kinyan Rabbanan. Since it's Kinyan Rabbanan, right? We believe Mesich V'Tumah. Okay, so no, it's Mishumi Guna were Makel. I mean Nechil Shel Devarim. So he didn't. Ravashi didn't say it as a kasha on this Gemara. He was saying Mesich V'Tumah is not kasha. Stamazlay. He says the only time the kasha is by Edus Isha. We're not taking Ravashi's statement and applying it over here. What are you talking about? Over here they believed. And that was answering, just like there's a svara to be makel by Isha al Siguna, there's a svara to be makel by birds, by bees, because man, it's only kinyan d'rabbanan in the first place, because they're really hefker. Al starka shalom. Fred the Gemara with the Raisa loy, from of Yehuda Mashmuel, Maisa b'adam echad, shalai mesiach b'tuma. He was telling a story. Vaymer, Zechareni, I remember, kashani tinek when I was a kid. Umakravani al ksefer shal abba, and I was riding my father's shoulder. But Tziyuim mi sefer, he took me out of yeshiva, not to a giant game baruch. Tuni al Ketanti, and he put me on his shoulders. The hit the luni, and he put me in the mikvah. Lecha b'truma le'erev, to eat truma in the evening. Erev shemesh, right? The full yom eats erev shemesh. And the Rab Chanina Messiah ba hachi the chaveri bedilimi many, and my chaverim they stepped away from me. By I see Yochanan Eichel Chalas. They called me Yochanan Eichel Chalas. In other words, he's telling a story, and based upon the story, you can ascertain the guy's a kohen. And that was enough of a reason to go ahead and be miyachasim as a kohen. So you see, le'inyan dinei deraisa, to eat truma, l'chayris deraisa, misiach levitumai can establish you. So why do you say it's only what by Edus Isha, where's the svar of Aguna, or by Nechil, where's the svar of Daka Shalomad of Kinyan Derabanan? So it's not about Truma Derabanan. It's speaking of what? Truma Derabanan. It's not speaking about Truma Deraisa. It's speaking about Truma Derabanan. Since it's Truma Derabanan, we're going to be Mekel. Says Rashi, Bisman Hazed, the Rebbe Lachach Churban Haya, Vikamadiyam Lekitchel Asad Lavai. There's a Madiyama that the Kitchel, the Shaykh, the Kitchel Asad Lavai, Eretz Yisrael, after the Bayis Rishon was destroyed, it didn't have the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael, and therefore all the produce was only the Rabbanim. Vakati deraisa loy. The Gemara continues on its quest to prove that Masich V'Tumah is believed in Dini deraisa. Vakati deraisa loy v'haki asa Rav Dimi Amar Rav Chana Kartigna v'milo Rav Acha Kartigna Mishtoi, who is speaking. Ma'isa balafnei Rabbi Shua ben Levi v'Amar loy Ma'isa balafnei Rabbi Betinoik Echad Shahaya Masich V'Tumah v'Amar Ani v'Imi Nashbinu Lebein Ha'akim. We were captured among the Goyim. Now the question is whether she can be a kohen. If she had been, mizana to a guy, she wouldn't be able to. Yatsasi lisha mayim daiti alimi. My other one had to draw water. I was thinking about her. Lilka ate him to go ahead and gather wood. Daiti alimi. In other words, I was constantly watching her and ensure that nothing went wrong. They see a Rebbe al piv lekahuna. L'chayra what? L'chayra. So you see that the dini deraisa Masich V'Tumah is believed. And for the Gemara, but now we're speaking about b'shvuya hakila. They were makel what by shvuya. They were makel. You know why? Because it's a suffix balma. Guys, we have a chazaka in this woman that the woman is muchzik, unless you know for sure she was muchzik, and therefore, since the suffix balma, Masich V'Tumah would be believed. You're able to go in and get your bees, but don't cut down the branch. Tanya Rishmal B'Noshal B'Yachin B'Bayk Omer Tanoi Bezdin. Who? This is Tanoi Bezdin. That you should go what? And the toich sada shal chavera, you should be able to go down to the sada of your friends. The kite says what? The kite says soichai shal chavera, and cut it down. The hatzeles not pila, to go ahead what and save his swarm. The night will make soichai mitoich nachle shal chavera, and you go ahead what and you take the money and give him money. The tnai bezdin who shoyfach yenim matzeles life shoyts tnai bezdin, that two people are walking along and one person has a barrel of expensive honey, another person has inexpensive wine, and the honey barrel breaks, and he needs a barrel to save the honey. So he pours out his wine and he saves it. So is he allowed to collect the price of his wine? The noitel de he's able to take the price of his wine. Because of saving the honey of his friend. The you go ahead and you have a donkey, and the donkey is carrying wood, and the other one's tying pishtona shel chaveroi, and his donkey drops dead. Now you throw off your load of wood, and you want to go ahead and help him out by putting on the load of more expensive flax. v'noitel demei eitzav mitoich pishnan shel chaveru shal minas kain hinchli shul yisrael es haaretz. So therefore, there was permission to go ahead and cut down even and pay for what? Pay for the wood that you cut down, the branch you cut down. Well, let's begin the Gemara. Says the Mishnah, Hamakiv Caleb Svarav Biaracher. A person recognizes the Caleb was Svarim in the hands of another individual, and it belonged to what? It belonged to Ruvain. So a person recognizes that Ruvain's Caleb or Ruvain's Svarim is in the hands of an individual, in the hands of Shimon. Shem Geneva Be'er, and it comes out, you hear that Ruvain's house was robbed. Yishavaloi Lakeach Kamen Nasan. Shimon would swear how much money he paid for Ruvain's Kalim or Svarim, V'yito, and what? And he asked, and then he gives it back to Ruvain, and he'd be reimbursed. Now, really, he shouldn't have to be reimbursed at all, guys, right? After all, Ruvain's getting back his object. But if this Lokeach is never going to go ahead and get any money for his return, it's going to stop all commerce from taking place, because I'll always be concerned that maybe I'm buying an object that was stolen. So this is called Tekanos Hashuk, to go ahead and facilitate business, guys, that make sure that you had the security, the insurance, that if you bought something, that you would be reimbursed. So that's called the Tekanos Hashuk. It's an important concept for this Gemara. Vim lav, and if not, he's not reimbursed, lav kol imenu, right? He doesn't have the power to go ahead and take it. Shani Omer, Machran la'acher, he went ahead and sold it to somebody else. V'lach is a imenu. In other words, I would say Reuben sold it to Harry. Harry sold it to Shimon, and now Reuben's coming along and saying it was stolen. You have no raya. Okay. Anyway, says the Gemara, "V'kiyos l'shem geneva be'er ma'ihave leichish dilma zavninu." Maybe Reuben sold it. V'hu nahave ka mafik shma, right? And Reuben is now causing a stir. In other words, he wants to get back his object, and he's saying, you know what, I had a Geneva. So he's saying that I had a Geneva. But he's causing what that the Geneva took place. In other words, what's our Mishnah said, guys, when a Geneva takes place, he's able to get from Shimon. What's the raya? Maybe he sold it to Harry, or maybe he sold it to Shimon, and now he's going ahead and causing a stir. So Rav going Shabo b'nayot Tech Beisai. So there were people in his house. There were intruders. They had figun b'layla, and he started screaming at night. V'yama nignavu kailai, my kalim was stolen. Says the Kosh Keni Limotzo. You know, in other words, this is still not enough of a reason to believe that he didn't sell it. There's no raya. It could be he went this whole harama. He had people come to his house and he announced that, you know, I'm being robbed. Of kind of Messiah, but Mishmei the Rav, going Shahisamach Teres Chatura B'toich Beisai, U'Bnei Odom Shalonu B'Seich Beisu Yatsu V'An V'Rekois Shal Kalim Al Kaspeya V'Akol Oimim Nigdmu Kalim Shal Ploini. There's a little more than just him announcing it, fellas. There is a tunnel going into his house. People who stayed in his house are walking out from that tunnel with what? With stuff. So the chayra, that's a raya that what they that's a raya that was stolen. Vidilma kalim have svarim lehavi. He said kalim and svarim. They're walking out with bags. How do you know there's svarim in there? They said it's also svarim. Maybe there was small svarim, and he's saying big svarim. To come to safer plenty. They said it's the shagas aryeh. Maybe it's the old print, and maybe they stole the new print, and it's the old print, or vice versa. Rav going the army halolu kelo shalponi halolu svar shalponi. In other words, it has his stamp in it. We know for sure that it's his. It has his stamp in it. You know for sure it's his. Now it's mashma, so this is enough of a reason to believe there's a geneva, and therefore what he'd be able to reclaim it from Shimon. Now, if you're telling me it's speaking in a case where there was a tunnel going into his house, there's a halacha of Baba Machteres, guys. Baba Machteres, this guy's coming in, he's coming in to kill you. In other words, he knows that you're going to stand up against him, and he's willing to kill you. The halacha is, he comes in, he takes out, he doesn't have to pay you. He's kind of that what? He's kind of that kalim with his life, because his life is worthless. He can kill you. At that point in time, if he kills you, he's off the hook. Adarab, it's you can kill him, not a problem. It's a mitzvah, kill him. So therefore, he's cleaning this with his blood. So the Gemara says, "Kasha now, you Rav are stelling and saying this case of the Mishnah speaking where what there's a tunnel going in, and therefore he's able to go ahead and recoup his loss. According to you, Rav, there should be no recouping at all. It should be putter because the guy came in with the answer is what, guys? These guys came in, they were in the house already. They would buy him, and it's not that it came from the outside. When it comes from the outside, that's when, says the Gemara, you putter from paying my timer bidame kanahu, you kind of with your blood. Says the Gemara, it comes into the machteres. If they were in the house already, then Rav would admit there's still money there. That this whole din is by a balabayas who would go ahead and sell his kalim, that you need what? You need all this circumstantial evidence. Since Reuben he will sell his kalim, he'll sell his svarim, he'll sell his kalim. So what's the raya that he can go ahead and recoup it from Shimon? If he goes ahead and sells it, how do we know it was stolen? So you have to go through the whole rigmarole. The guy's in the house, and there's a tunnel. That's when we have to come onto this little kimta with all these side points. However, the guy is not normally is prone to go ahead and sell something. You don't have to go after all these things to say it was safe for plenty. It's enough to say that he doesn't sell it. It's enough to say that that's his safe. Maybe he usually doesn't sell it, but maybe he does need it. In this specific instance, he did need the money, and therefore he'd go ahead and sell it. Ravashi, Hari Yosel Hashem Geneva beer. Okay, Hashem Geneva is enough. In other words, for a guy who doesn't sell stuff, all you need is Hashem Geneva in the air for him to recoup it, right? Without the Shem Geneva in Achnami, maybe he went ahead and sold it. But with the Shem Geneva and the fact that he usually doesn't sell something, he's believed to say that it was stolen, and therefore he'd be able to get it back, but he have to provide money again because of Takanas HaShavim.